Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Lane actually had a hot mic moment. Do you know this man who got his aiding and abetting charges thrown out, got 3 years? Do you know he's moaning and groaning about doing the 3 years? He had a hot mic moment complaining about three little measly years. In the meantime, we got Black men and women sitting behind bars for decades, 2, 3, 4, 5 decades, that never even committed the crime. And he's moaning over 3 years. You notice when these folks get locked up, they do nothing but cry and whine the entire time. But they want Black folks in there, right? You can tell this is taught behavior, ladies and gentlemen, because you see this behavior in many of them. They really seriously believe that no matter what they do to us, even if it's something that results in the death of a Black man, woman, or child, there should never, ever, ever be consequences. We done seen this in Amber Geiger. We see it in Derek Chauvin, who's now appealing and really don't believe he should be serving the 22 and a half years. We've seen this in Jason Van Dyke after he killed Laquan McDonald. Okay. And now look at Thomas Lane lashing out because he got 3 years for a crime he took part in. You were there as plain as day on camera with Derek Chauvin holding down George Floyd as he was being put to death by Derek Chauvin. And you did not act, you didn't do nothing. And he's moaning about 3 years. Wow. Wow. Former police officer Thomas Lane has been sentenced to 3 years in prison for his part of a plea deal on a manslaughter charge for killing George Floyd. Lane pled guilty in May for aiding and abetting second degree manslaughter in George Floyd's 2020 murder. So, ladies and gentlemen, he is currently serving 30 months with somebody died and you got 30 months. Just think about that. The last man I read that was exonerated, y'all, he was in there for 36 years for something he never did. And this dude is crying over 3 years. Wow. So he is serving his time at a federal prison in Colorado on separate charges for violating Floyd's rights, and he will serve his sentences simultaneously. Lane was caught complaining on a hot mic near the end of the sentencing hearing. You know what the judge should have done at that point? Put those aiding and abetting charges back on him and giving him the appropriate sentence. You lucky I wasn't the judge in there, because after hearing you on that hot mic, I would have threw the maximum at your behind. So this is what Lane said, y'all. I got to register as a predator offender. What the F is that? Lane was asking his attorney, Earl Gray. Mr. Gray said he wasn't sure, but he would look into it. This is what he did. He started bitching and moaning in court over the 3 year sentence, 3 years for a man that died. That's what Chauvin has to do. So if I have a minimal role, why the F do I gotta do that? This is what Lane is saying. Listen, Jesus Christ, Lane replied, clearly frustrated. Hey, they let him sit there and get away with that. So he really, in his mind, believed there should be no consequences. See, this is what they get taught when they're being radicalized at home. No matter what they do, if it's one of us, there should be no consequences. The nerve, the audacity. Kim Hyatt, a reporter at the Star Tribune, later clarified Mr. Gray and learned that Lane would not have to register. Lane was one of four police officers implicated in Floyd's death. Chauvin was ultimately found guilty of murdering Floyd and violating his civil rights. So he, we know, is serving more than 20 years in prison. Former officers Tu Tao and J. Alexander King will also go to trial after rejecting plea deals in August. Both men were sentenced in federal court for Floyd's violating Floyd's civil rights. King was sentenced to 3 years in prison, and Tao received 3.5 years. Mm, mm, mm. Flimsy sentences for something that resulted in the murder of a person while he was in police custody. See, once they had handcuffed him and took him away, he was in their custody when he died. Floyd was killed. Floyd was murdered by Chauvin, who knelt on his neck for 9.5 minutes. Floyd called out that he couldn't breathe, and Lane was right there, and he didn't do anything after hearing him say he couldn't breathe multiple times. Lane just stayed on his legs and didn't move on that minimal role. No, you had a big role in his death, buddy. So Floyd called out he couldn't breathe. Chauvin did not let up. The other officers, Lane, King, and Tao, surrounded Chauvin and ensured angry bystander witnesses in the event they could not get involved. While the group successfully stopped bystanders from saving Floyd, they did not stop the crowd from shooting video. Those videos, along with numerous videos and stories of other unarmed Black men and women being killed by police officers, sparked the 2020 racial justice protest that dominated in late spring through early fall of that year. Remember, Trump wanted to get the military out there to go after the crowd? Y'all remember that? And all those folks were protesting. He wanted the military to go out on the streets and go after the crowds. But those generals up at the Pentagon completely dismissed and refused to do what Trump wanted. Man, and then doesn't that diminish the right to protest if you're going to send the military after people? Unbelievable what the what these folks really truly believe in this country. It's not shocking that it is falling and you are losing everything. You know what, y'all? It just goes to show you this man got the lightest sentence ever, just like Amber Geiger. You ain't hardly got to do any time behind bars. And you got the nerve to be complaining over 3 years? 3 years and you're complaining and somebody died? You should have got way more than that. And the fact that the judge threw out the aiding and abetting charges, which were the most serious charges he was up against, he threw that out. It should not, look at his reaction. It should never have been thrown out. Look how ungrateful he is. Talk about grateful. Well, he's the most ungrateful person that committed an actual crime. But y'all, please tell me what you think. Thomas Lane got some damn nerve. You really do. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.